What's up, Eagles Nation? Victory Monday. And what a sweet victory that was last night against the Los Angeles Rams. For those of you keeping count at home, the Eagles are now 3-0 versus LA teams in LA since the teams moved back to LA. 2-0 versus the Rams at the Coliseum and 1-0 versus the Chargers at StubHub Field. So, they've done pretty good in LA over the past couple seasons, and big win. Listen, there's been a lot of tough losses on this season. We know this. The victory, the 30-23 win last night, puts the Eagles at 500 at 7-7. It doesn't completely take away the taste of losing to Dallas the way they did a couple weeks ago, losing to Tennessee the way they did earlier in the season, losing to Carolina the way they did earlier in the season, as they showed yesterday, the stats. But you know what? It was a big win for this team going forward. Obviously, we know Carson Wentz out with the back. Nick Foles, St. Nick, is back in just in time for the holidays. And, he had himself a nice game. And the thing, though, that bothers me about how the Eagles did it last night, and I am 100% happy that they won the game. I thought there was a chance they could win the game going in because the Rams over the past few weeks have not looked as dynamic as they were weeks before offensively. I understood that the Eagles had a lot of injuries on defense, particularly in the secondary, but if the front, defensive line can get pressure on Jared Goff, I thought that could be a key, maybe slowing down Todd Gurley. Obviously, Gurley got hurt during the game. He was limited in the second half. But listen, the Eagles did a great job last night. But the thing that does bother me a little bit is, you do have Nick Foles in there, the Super Bowl 52 MVP, need I remind people. Everyone counted the Eagles out last night, just as they were counting them out last year in the playoffs. We saw how last season ended. And we saw how last night ended. The thing that bothers me, though, is the lack of the consistency week to week in the play calling by Doug Peterson and the coaching staff. And look, they did a great job last night. I mean, the Rams still have a very potent defense, particularly up front, Donald and Sue and company. But the Eagles came out and they established a run. Now, what works best with Nick Foles, right? The RPOs. Okay, you have to establish a run for that to work. Now, the Eagles tried to do that with Carson. But the problem is they weren't establishing a run game when they were trying to do the RPOs with Carson. And I said this before. I said this for weeks during Eagles losses. Where was the balance, offensively? And I know Carson took a lot of blame and everything, and it is what it is. But even a couple weeks ago against Dallas, if you could have ran the ball a little more, I looked at that game yesterday. Dallas gets blanked 23-0 by the Indiana. By the way, thank you, Colts. Thank you. Because all those local bandwagon Dallas fans get to shut up for a week. Okay? Because that we only hear from them after wins. I mean, let's be honest. After losses, they all kind of disappear. But what did the Colts do? They ran on them. Punched a bully in the mouth, right? When you have a defense like Dallas, they are susceptible to the run. And we've seen this in other games. The Eagles last week, early in the game, were having pretty good run plays against that defense. I know they got stuffed a few times, including, what was it, 4th and 1, but they were also reeling off some pretty good runs by Adams, and then they went away from it. And the whole rest of the first and second half, and I know they had to play catch-up a couple times when they were down by a touchdown, twice in the fourth quarter, but still, the first half of the game, where did the run go? Why did we become so pass-happy? And it's not like we were getting blown out. I mean, it was a 6-0 lead deficit at halftime, and for most of that first half, it was 3-0. It was a manageable game that they may have been able to have some points before the end of the first half. Well, I do find it interesting. See, when the games aren't played at Dallas in the Jerry world, officials seem to know what a fumble is, what a fumble recovery is, but when the game's played there, they don't seem to know what it is. They have to go to New York, and the people in New York don't seem to know what it is either. It is. But here we are in Indianapolis. There's a fumble that the Colts recover. And they seem to know that the Colts recovered that. Yeah, okay. See, so you can call fumble recoveries against Dallas. We have seen this now. But in the Jerry world, it's a different situation. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But anyhow, again, establish a run game, balance offense. And they didn't have it against Dallas. And look, it was still a game they could have won. It didn't, it didn't go their way at the end there. The overtime, they never got the ball. The freaking deflection touchdown for Amari Cooper. It is what it is. Nothing we can do about now. But the bottom line at the end of the day is that I said this before. This offense is a good running offense. They don't have that signature bell cow back. But whoever's back there runs well because this offensive line is a good run-blocking offensive line. They're athletic. They're good at the point of attack. They make plays downfield. Receivers are good at blocking. This team can run. And it's like the coaching staff just seems to forget about that. They're like, no, we're just going to pass, particularly when Carson's in there. And I understand Carson's a very good young quarterback, and you want him to throw the ball and have success. And look, last season, he set a franchise record for touchdown passes, and would have been the league MVP if he didn't go down, ironically enough, in L.A. last season, around this time of year last season. But the fact is, to make this quarterback even that much more dynamic in this offense that's been sorely missing for a lot of games, that much more dynamic, you have to have balance. You got to run the ball. You got to establish a run game, and it sets things up with the RPOs. Now, I believe that Nick Foles might be a better RPO quarterback than Carson Wentz. But the fact is, we just don't know because they don't run the ball enough when they have Carson behind center. They run the ball more when Nick's behind center. And I understand Nick and Carson are two different quarterbacks. But it's like they're willing to do that for Nick, and then they're not willing to do it with Carson. And it is disappointing. I will say that. I mean, because I'm watching this game last night, and that offense is doing things that we haven't seen in a while. But, the fourth quarter they looked all right last week against Dallas, but for the most part, it's been missing. And here they are going down the field and making plays. And Alshon Jeffrey, oh my goodness, they remembered he's on the team. That was good. I mean, Zach Ertz kind of, got forgotten a bit, but but Alshon, we remembered we had Alshon Jeffrey on the team. Again, the run sets up the pass and other way around, but you have to have that balance. And for much too much in the season, they just haven't had that. And last season, they had it. There were games here and there, particularly early, when they didn't. And then they changed it around, and then we saw how explosive that offense was last season when they did. This year, the same thing. For most of the season, this hasn't been an explosive offense, and they have the pieces to be it. But when you don't have that balance, you're not going to have that. It makes you too easy to defend. And particularly in the red zone where they've had trouble. Now listen, again, it is what it is. You got to give them credit. They played well last night. They showed up last night. And they had a hell of a game on both sides of the ball and special teams. Besides for the field goal miss late by Elliott. But look, special teams comes up with, I don't know what the heck that guy in the Rams was doing. He fumbles the ball at the most inopportune time to do it. But look, special teams made some plays. I mean, yeah, the Rams, it looked early that they were going to establish the way they play. But then what happened? The Eagles defense, they adjusted. Woo! Jim Schwartz can do this. They adjusted. They brought more pressure on Goff. They disguised a few more blitzes. They put pressure on. And what did that do? It led to some turnovers. And the Eagles won the turnover battle last night. Listen, if you're going to beat a team like the Rams on the road, one of the things you have to do is win the turnover battle, and that's what this team did. They got, I believe, 3 turnovers, including the special teams fumble, to 1, because Nick Foles had a bad interception, but an interception in the red zone. Jared Goff with a couple of, the one was just that crazy. He's kind of slipping. He tries to make a play, and it wasn't very good. It was great for us, but it wasn't very good for Goff. That play that I don't even know what he was trying to do. But again, you credit this defense. I know they're shorthanded in the secondary, but you know what? the guys that had to step in and fill in for other guys who were hurt, they showed up last night. They had a hell of a game. A hell of a game. And you give them credit, a nice hand, because they were a big part of why this team won this game last night. And look, it was close at the end. All right, the Rams, look, they have a lot of firepower. Eventually they were going to, show up there in the second half. They got close, but what happened at the end? The defense made the stop when they had to make it, and Gurley forgot to get out of bounds. That's okay. You still made the stop where you had to get it on fourth down, and for most of the second half, the defense was lights out. I mean, the Rams just looked lost, for portions of that second half. And people say, oh, Gurley wasn't in. Even when Gurley was in there, they were hitting. I mean, the Eagles' defense was hit. They were bringing some lumber last night with them. Okay, they were hitting the Rams. Yeah, I mean, the receivers, look, I mean, they weren't getting free. And the thing that the Eagles wanted to do, like other teams did the previous 2 weeks, is stop the big plays. Don't give up those big chunk yards to the Rams, and they didn't. And it was a big part why this team had success last night, why they won this game. Listen, the Rams needed this game. As much as, the Eagles needed the game certainly to stay alive, the Rams needed it too, because you got the Bears, breathing down their necks, and the Bears have the tiebreaker. So for people to say, oh, well, the Rams, it doesn't hurt the Rams, oh, it might. And this is a huge win for a couple reasons. Obviously, it's a huge win for the Eagles. It's, for all of our psyche after that Dallas loss, right? This is a huge win. It keeps us alive. We're right there. We're a half game out behind the Vikings. Hopefully the Saints take care of business tonight, beat the Panthers. I know the Redskins won, but we got the tiebreaker with them. So if the Panthers lose tonight, it's really between the Eagles and the Vikings. And here's the thing. So going forward, obviously, look, we got to take care of our business next week against Houston. And they may or may not have Hopkins in the game or Lamar Miller. So that could be a benefit for the Eagles. But, we'll see. And the game's here. And like I said before, I'd rather play them here than in Houston. I think it works out. It's like I said some weeks ago, I believe before the Dallas game, I said, I think it works out, the schedule. I know it's tough, but I would rather play at LA where it's not really a home field. And you saw that last night. It's not a very good home field advantage for the Rams when it was a sea of green in the stands, okay? And that was coming off the Dallas loss, okay? And kudos to the Eagles fans who were at that game last night. We all heard you. Watching this game on TV, it sounded like the game was being played right here at the Link. So the fans certainly showed up. They did their part. The team certainly did their part. And here's the thing, like I was saying, I'm glad we played in L.A. and we got the Texans here, because I would rather play the Texans here than play them in Houston. And I don't really know what the weather's going to be like right now on Sunday. It's still kind of early. Obviously, it's Monday. It could be cold. There could be weather. Again, you'd rather play that team that primarily plays indoors, outdoors. And if they don't have Hopkins, that's their best receiver. If they don't have Miller, that's one of their best, if not their best running back. So that could hamper them a little bit. Again, you take everything you can. And look, we have injuries too. I mean, we're going to be playing, again, without Carson. It's going to be Nick Foles in there. And yes, he won he was the Super Bowl MVP last season, so we're in good hands. But we're playing with our backup quarterback and a lot of backups, particularly on the defensive side of the ball in the secondary and such, and linebackers. But again, all those guys showed up last night, did a great job. But my point was, if the Eagles can take care of their business against Houston, now look, the Vikings, I don't want to say it's a layup game, but they're playing the Lions. I know it's in Detroit. The Lions play better at home than they do on the road. Maybe they'll give them a game. It is a division game on the road for the Vikings. You don't say anything's given right now, but more than likely, the Vikings might win that one. Okay. Now I know the Seahawks lost yesterday at San Francisco in overtime, and that was a pretty big loss. I still don't think we're going to catch Seattle, and I say that because I know the Seahawks have a real tough game this week on Sunday Night Football home, although it is home, against Kansas City. But then the next week they're playing the Cardinals. And I know it's a division game on the road. I get that. But, yeah, they're probably not going to lose that one. So our best bet is to beat out the Vikings. And here's how we could do it. Okay, so the Eagles win their game. And look, the Lions want to help us out this week and win that game. I mean, hey, great. But if not, What we have to do, Eagles Nation, what we have to do, we have to hope the Eagles win their game against the Texans, and we will see about Minnesota, Detroit. But if Minnesota does win that game, we have to be the biggest Bears fans. Because here's the thing. Now, the Rams, I believe, play the Cardinals this week, so that's probably going to be a win, but we'll see. Probably going to be a win, though. So they'll stay ahead of the Bears in the NFC standings. But here's the thing. We need the Bears to win this week at San Francisco if Minnesota loses. Or Minnesota wins, rather. I'm sorry. If they win, we need the Bears to win that game. Why? Because the last week of the season, the Eagles have to take care of their own business again. They go to Washington, take on the Redskins. But the Bears play at Minnesota. And we need that game to matter for the Bears if indeed it comes down to the last week of the season. Now, I know it's in Minnesota, but if the Bears still have a shot at being the 2 seed, which they could, if they win their game, and the Rams, I believe they play the 49ers. If 49ers beat Seattle yesterday, so anything's possible. If they somehow, and that game, I believe, because it's a West Coast game, would be the 4, and I think the Vikings-Bears game would be a 1 o'clock game. So if that game still matters for the Bears to get the 2 seed, to have a possibility of get the 2 seed over the Rams, they're not going to sit people. So they're not going to sit guys like Mack and guys in that front, that vaunted defense that they have, and Trubisky won't be sitting. Now, I do think it would be very humorous if the Bears somehow, if that game doesn't mean much for them and they start our old friend there, Chase Daniels, and he somehow beats the Vikings. That would be very interesting. But no, our best bet, obviously, again, the Eagles have to win their games. It's for that game to matter for the Bears. Because, again, I think there's a shot. I mean, if it matters for them, they're a good team. And they could go to Minnesota and get a win. With that defense, and Trubisky playing, well, I mean, they could very well win that game in Minnesota and help us out. So we'll see. Hey, look, the Eagles did themselves no favors earlier in the season with those losses, particularly Tennessee and the Panther game. But they're still in the mix, and that's all we can hope for at this time of year. I mean, hell, the other thing that could happen, although we'll see, but it could happen, is Dallas loses their 2 games and we win our 2 games. Now, I will say this. Dallas plays at home against the Bucks this week, and though that game looks like it could be a easier game, the Bucks offense, I mean, not for nothing, there's weeks where they look really good, so maybe they put it up this week. And then the following week, Dallas has to go to the Giants to play the obviously the Giants and the Millions, and the Giants always get up to play Dallas. So it's not like that's just going to be a layup for Dallas, at the end of the season. So we'll see. I know the Giants aren't in great shakes right now, but there's been some weeks that they've looked pretty decent offensively, and if they show up against Dallas in that game, that could be an interesting game. Particularly with the fact if Dallas loses this week against the Bucks, the Giants are feeling we can kick them out. And what better thing would the Giants want to do to finish off their season than by ending Dallas this year? That would be something as an added incentive for them. So it's still, there's a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of it's like a ping pong ball match. There's all these ping pong balls in the air. All this stuff could still happen. The best case scenario is still for the Eagles. I mean, the best chance, rather, for the playoffs is still the wild card, and there's still an opportunity. Now, this is a big game tonight. Hopefully the Saints can help us out and beat the Panthers. That's one less team to worry about. But then you have the hope the Vikings lose a game, and obviously the Eagles have to take care of their own business. Hey, nothing's going to matter if the Eagles don't take care of their own business, okay? So first and foremost, the Eagles have to beat the Texans. Still a good team, good quarterback there in Watson, good defense, guys like Watt and Clowney and company. I mean, it's a very good team, and they've won 10 games so far. It's a good team, and good defenses travel. So it's not like it's going to be an easy game for the Eagles. But there's still lots of possibilities out there as to what the rest of the season can bring. And as bleak as it looked a week ago after losing to Dallas in overtime, this huge win against the Rams in L.A., I mean, again, now they position themselves to have a shot. Now, that being said, the coaching staff, the players, they all still got to get it done. And they can't forget what it is to run the ball. Okay, so we can't go into this week having success this past week against the Rams, Against a good defense, what did they do? They punched them in the mouth. They ran the ball. They had success. It set things up for the passing game. That's what you got to do against the Texans. You got to be able to establish a run game. It makes those RPOs work. If you're not running, they're not going to fall for these RPOs. The only way the RPOs work is the first part of R, which is run. So the Eagles, look, we've seen a lot of inconsistencies with the coaching staff with the offensive play calling. I liked how they called the game last night. I really did. They kind of simplified it a bit. Obviously, you have Foles. They went with his strengths, and it worked. And St. Nick back again in the holidays, winning games for the Eagles. But they have to keep that going. And don't get away from it this week against Houston. I mean, it's a big game. Obviously, every game the rest of the way is huge. This is another one. Again, I'm glad it's here in Philly, playing a good Houston team, but it's here in our stadium. I know the Eagles' home field advantage hasn't been the greatest this season, but they have won their last couple home games, and, it's a huge game. The fans are going to be there, full throat as always. It's going to be a playoff atmosphere. Lots on the line still. I mean, look, there's a lot of games going on. I mean, the Minnesota game, Dallas. If the Panthers win tonight, I think they play the Falcons next week. So that game, there's a lot of kind of playoff ramifications going on. It's an exciting time of year, particularly when your team still has a shot. So there's a lot going on. I look forward to it. I'm very happy they won last night. It was a great game all around, and they earned that victory. They did everything you had to do to win a game, and they did it, and they won the game. A game a lot of people didn't think they would. And they earned it. They earned that win, and it was great to see. It was great to see them come together as a team, play well on both sides of the ball, look good. Look, they were upset losing that Dallas game, and I like that. I like the emotion that they showed. A lot of times this season, they haven't shown a lot of emotion. They were almost very robotic. And maybe this offseason they kind of got high off the hog being the defending champs going on the banquet tours. And it's like some of these games, after these games, you don't really see the emotion. I saw a lot of emotion out of that after they lost that Dallas game. And I know it was in heartbreak fashion, but I saw a lot of emotion out of that team, and I saw a lot of anger. And I like that. It shows that, hey, these guys care. They still want to go out there and win. They're not giving things up. They know they're behind the eight ball, and they still need other things to happen to get in. But last night showed me this team is still very well committed to finishing things off this season and having a shot to get in. Now, again, they're bringing out the underdog motifs. I think now they said ski masks or something. Hey, look, whatever it takes. Last year it was underdog. It was dog mask. This year it's ski mask. I don't know. But they rallied around it, knowing that everyone's picking against them, and they found a way to do it. And if that's what they have to do again this year, I think someone said on the radio today, it's just their DNA. It's like they need this. They need to be, the team everyone's picking to lose to win these games. Some teams it just works. And it seems that that's what this team uses as their rallying cry. And, it's sort of similar from a year ago. Now you're back to the backup quarterback and rally around him, and all these other guys are hurt, and let's like shock the world type thing again, And who knows what can happen this year? It's a different circumstance. They won't have home field. If they do make it in as a wild card, more than likely they're going to have to go on the road. Although they won a big road game last night, and they almost beat Dallas in Dallas. They have played decent on the road, and they have a lot of leaders on this team. This is a team still with a lot of leaders. I know a lot of guys are out, but, they rally around the leaders, and they made it happen last night. Excuse me. And that's all you can ask for. As a fan, even with the circumstances being the way it is, that's what I want to see. I want to see fight. I want to see emotion. I want to see execution. And I saw all of that last night. And as a fan, I'm happy about that. I do hope that Doug and the coaching staff, again, get more, consistent with the play calling. Not forget about the run. Look, Wendell Smallwood looked great last night. The rotation of running backs is still what it is. But Corey Clement out. So Smallwood's role gets bigger. You're going to see Adams as well, Sproles. They still have a nice three-headed monster there at running back. And obviously Nick Foles. Look, nothing phases this guy. Okay, nothing phases him. He has that supreme confidence. And why not? after what happened last season. You go toe-to-toe with Brady and Belichick and win a Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl MVP. I don't think there's much that's going to faze you after that. And nothing was phasing him last year, but particularly after what he did in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl last year, I mean, there's nothing you can throw at him. I mean, the Rams they laid some good hits on him, and he just kept popping back up and making more plays. That's Nick. Yeah, again, I said this before. I'll say it again. He's not a franchise quarterback, and that's not a knock at him. That's all due respect. But for this time that we have him in there, the rest of the season and hopefully playoffs, is perfect. And there's still there's still a chance that Carson comes back. There's still a chance he comes back for the Redskins game. And that's their right as an organization to put him back out there. I don't know if he will be, particularly if the Eagles win this game on Sunday and Carson's still with the back and the knee. And, I almost feel at this point like I would love to see him back out there, but I don't know if there's like a real need to just rush him back, just so he gets hurt again. I'd rather him fully heal that back, fully get the knee right, and then come back next season ready to go. That's just my opinion. And I'm not just saying that because the Eagles won last night. There is such a thing as rushing guys back from injury, and it could have prolonged issues. And I know they said that the back deal is a 3-month thing. So, like I said, I almost feel just let him heal for the 3 months. Let him be back healthy next season from the start of the season on and go from there. Because we're in good hands with Nick the rest of the way. He's done it in the playoffs. We know if this team makes the playoffs, at least we know what Nick has done in the playoffs. We don't know Carson, and I understand that. Well, that it's playoff experience if Carson gets in there and his team makes the playoffs. I know, but but if he's not healthy, it's like, well, he can get the experience next season in the playoffs. Hopefully they make it. So I don't know if I would be as quick to rush him back. And it's not saying that they can't win with him, because I do believe they can. I do believe the coaching staff needs to get better with the play calling with him, as they certainly do with Nick Foles. But I wouldn't rush Carson back just to rush him back, because this team still could win with Nick, at least for the remainder of this season. And based off last season, I think we all know what Nick's capable of doing in the playoffs. And again, it's not a knock on Carson. It's just, it's facts based off last season. And if this team, has a chance to make a run again, I'd rather see the healthy guy out there as quarterback than the guy who's not completely healthy yet. I don't want to jeopardize his future. Because I do believe he has a bright future. I do believe Carson still has a bright future, and I still think the future of this team, it rests on him and Doug's shoulders. It has to work hand in hand. I know they've done some great things with Nick Foles, but again, I don't think Nick is the guy to be the franchise quarterback. That's just my opinion. Long term, I just don't think that's it. His skill set compared to Carson's, I just think Carson's the guy. And you moved up all that way to move up to draft Carson. I just think you got to roll with Carson. And I don't think he's injury prone, this, that, the other thing. I think he just has to have an off season of rest and rehab, again, with the back. Make sure that knee is completely good. Have an off season, a full off season with his team, the OTAs, the preseason, the training camp, a full training camp, and again, come in next season and be ready to rock and roll. And I believe he could next season have a season similar to what he was doing last season when he was an MVP candidate. Because last season, in the off season, he went through everything knowing he was going to be the starter. He was healthy. And he went through everything that you go through in an off season, and look what he was doing last season before he got hurt in L.A. Franchise record touchdown passes, MVP, would have been the MVP if he doesn't get hurt. And that came off a full off season, knowing that he was going to be the number one guy. He was healthy. And, this past off season, he was rehabbing the knee. And so he didn't have the ability to have a real off season the way starting quarterbacks have, who aren't rehabbing an injury. And he's put up big numbers. I know Deshaun Watson's had a great year since coming back, and it's a different situation. It's a different case. But Carson, again, I think he will benefit greatly from not having to rehab something this offseason like a knee and just working on the things that he has to get better at, as a quarterback in this league. And I believe he will. And again, I still believe in him. I fully expect him to be the guy next season. Regardless, look, if Nick Foles wins another Super Bowl, you can throw the argument out there, and it's very understandable. But anything short of that, I just think I don't think there's an argument. I really don't. I think Carson's the guy going forward next season. And look, I hope this team has success, because I remember how fun it was a year ago, and that ride, and what it meant. And, if they can give us a ride again this season, I'm all for it. I know it hasn't been perfect this season. It's been a completely different kind of year. But, hey, if this team still has a ride left in them, if they can get in, if the Vikings or the Dallas or one of these other teams lose games and we get in based off winning these next 2 games, hey, more power to them. I always said I'd rather be in than not. Get a ticket to the dance. You take a shot. Hey, we already beat the Rams in L.A. That's one team we could play in the playoffs again. I mean, I know we got blown out by the Saints, but that was them. It's a completely different game. Let's see them again. The Dallas. If we have to play at Dallas, I mean, look, we a couple things go our way in that last game. We win the last game. So anything's possible. You just have to get in. You have a shot. So let's see what happens. Like I said, there's some big games this week. I look forward to them. It's playoff atmosphere weekend here. My buddy Big Slim will be over here this weekend. We're going to watch the game here in the Man Cave at the Mighty Kingdom on Sunday. And, hopefully we'll see another victory. And, look forward to that. And, so, hey, look, it was a big win last night. I'm glad the coaching staff, figured it out at least for last night on offense. They got to continue to do it. The defense looked great, and they're going to have to. They're going to have to. They're going to have to play at that level the rest of the way. You're going up against a pretty good offense this week in the Texans. I don't know the injury situation with Hopkins and Miller, but they may or may not have them. But either way, you're playing a dynamic young quarterback in Watson. And they have other weapons too. So it's not a cakewalk. It's certainly there's challenges there, and certainly that defense. But I like the fact that this offense played well against a good defense last night in their building, even though it was like an Eagles building. But all the Eagle fans there. So shout out to Eagles Nation. We got a big win last night, 30-23. We beat the LA Rams. The Eagles are still perfect in LA since the LA teams returned to LA. And it was a big win, a huge win. It was a huge win. We needed that. They needed that. And now we have a big opportunity here in front of us, don't we? I mean, this big game on Sunday at home against the Texans, and there's other big games going on. Again, hopefully, let's go Saints tonight. Beat those Panthers, knock them down. And then, we hope that the Lions can give us some help too, or maybe the Bucks can continue to give Dallas losses. It's always good when they lose. Yesterday was great. That early game, got to watch Dallas get shut out in Indy, and then later that night, the Eagles and then the Patriots even lost. It was like one of those just, everything kind of went a good kind of way for football. Oh, I mean, the Vikings won, but, outside of that, it was like everything else kind of fell into place there. And it was fun. It was a fun football day and evening, and a great win for our Birds. And let's hope for another great weekend this weekend and still have a shot. That's all we have to ask for right now is just give us a shot, And obviously a lot of things aren't in our control, but, hopefully we still have a shot, going into, the last week of the regular season. It would be better than the alternative. All right, everyone, thanks for watching. As always, let's go Birds. Big win last night, huge win last night. And St. Nick is back at the helm right in time for the holidays. And let's hope this team continues to build on what they accomplished last night and keep taking it for next week and the week after, and we'll see if it's in the cards for us to make the postseason. All right, everyone, take care, and I'll see you after the game against the Texans, which hopefully I'll be able to talk about another victory for our Birds. Take care, everyone. Happy holidays as always, and I'll see you guys around the channel. Take care. Bye. Go Birds!